The California dream didn't fade out quietly. It slammed shut with a cold legal filing that shook the foundations of Montecito. Imagine building a life of private jets, multi-million-dollar mansions, and elite circles only to have one of the world's biggest financial institutions put you on blast in a public court. American Express just dropped a bomb on Harry and Meghan, and the explosion is being heard all the way in London. They aren't just asking for a late payment. They are demanding over $2.3 million in unpaid credit card debt. And once you add the interest, the penalties, and the mounting legal fees, that number is expected to rocket past $5 million. This isn't just a bill. It's a signal that the polished, picture-perfect lifestyle the Sussexes sold to the world is starting to fracture under a massive weight of debt. But the lawsuit was just the opening hit. While the legal papers were being served in California, a much colder wind was blowing across the Atlantic. The monarchy, the very system they walked away from, hasn't just been watching, it's been preparing. What started as a dispute over credit cards has spiraled into a full-on spotlight on the entire Sussex operation. From media deals to charitable foundations, everything they've built is now sitting under an intense, unforgiving focus. The world is watching to see if the Sussex brand is actually a powerhouse or just a house of cards waiting for the wind to blow. And that wind just turned into a hurricane. The pressure didn't stay behind closed doors for long. Just days after the Amex news broke, a move started in the UK that made one thing very clear: there would be no support and no sympathy from the Crown. On February 24th, 2026, an order came out of London that felt like ice. It didn't come from a palace press team or a family member. It came from the Privy Council, a historic, powerful advisory body tied directly to the king himself. This moved the situation out of family drama and straight into state business. Meghan Markle was given a 21-day ultimatum: hand over a full unfiltered breakdown of every corporate credit card, every liability, and every transaction tied to their business and charitable work. Domestic and international. No negotiations, no delays, just 21 days to reveal the truth. To ensure this wasn't ignored, a special ethics subcommittee was formed with the authority to demand records from any company or charity linked to the Sussex name. This is a level of pressure they've never faced before. For years, they controlled the narrative through interviews and documentaries, but you can't argue with a forensic audit. The freedom they sought in California is now facing the hard reality of strict oversight and zero flexibility. The king isn't acting like a father anymore. He's acting like the chairman of a multi-billion-dollar firm protecting his brand from a massive risk. And what he did next changed the game entirely. Enter Operation Ledger. This wasn't just a simple review. It was a strategic masterstroke designed to leave the Sussexes with nowhere to hide. The palace brought in Sir Malcolm Hurst, the former head of the Serious Fraud Office. This is a man who doesn't care about titles, Netflix deals, or emotional truth. He cares about hard numbers and paper trails. Hurst's mission was to audit the royal household, first setting a standard of transparency so clean that it couldn't be challenged. The palace started releasing open-source spreadsheets online. They showed that royal charities were operating at 98% efficiency. They even included Princess Anne's personal funding. They laid everything bare to the public, creating a benchmark that everyone could see. This move was genius. By making the Crown's finances completely transparent, the palace created a trap. When the Sussexes finally hand over their records, they won't be looked at in a vacuum. Every missing invoice, every vague deduction, and every unusual spending pattern will be compared directly against the palace's clean public ledgers. If the Sussex books don't match that standard, the world will see it instantly. The same public scrutiny that Harry and Meghan once used to build their brand is now being used to hold them accountable. The narrative is no longer being written by PR teams. It's being written by forensic accountants. But as the sun set over the Pacific, the real storm was just beginning to brew in a London courtroom. While the accountants were digging through files, the social cost of this financial show began to take its toll. In elite circles where image is everything, the Sussex name started to feel less like a golden ticket and more like a liability. Longtime allies who once rushed to defend them on social media suddenly went silent. The invitations to high-profile galas stopped arriving, and the gossip in the hills of Hollywood shifted from their next big deal to their impending financial offing. It's one thing to fight with your family, it's another thing entirely to be seen as broke in a town that worships the dollar. As the final hours of the 21-day deadline ticked down, the atmosphere inside the Montecito estate shifted from a luxury retreat to a high-stress command center. Black SUVs packed with lawyers and accountants replaced the usual celebrity guests. Drones from the paparazzi hovered overhead, catching the constant movement of professionals carrying sealed binders and hard drives. Inside, the war room was in chaos. Teams of attorneys were reportedly arguing over what could be protected by legal privilege and what had to be handed over. The lifestyle that once felt like an escape started feeling like a prison. Every ocean view was a reminder of the mounting costs to keep the gates closed and the security team paid. The financial hits kept coming fast and hard. According to sources close to their inner circle, Netflix reportedly flagged the final $21 million payment for their documentary deal. They cited the ongoing legal mess as a reason to hold the funds. Then, a major podcast platform allegedly moved to terminate its contract, using moral and financial clauses to walk away. Just like that, tens of millions of dollars in expected income vanished at the exact moment the legal bills started hitting six figures. The billion-dollar brand was losing air and the cash flow was drying up. But there was a deeper, darker rumor circulating in the finance world that really sent pulses racing. A leaked memo alleged that when private equity investors for Meghan's lifestyle brand American Riviera Orchard checked the main operating account, it held less than $5,000. For a couple with their level of expenses, $5,000 wouldn't cover a single week of security for their children. The high-end world of luxury started to pivot away almost instantly. Fashion houses that once begged Meghan to wear their clothes were reportedly asking for loaned couture pieces back. A famous Los Angeles jeweler allegedly pulled a $130,000 credit line used for high-end events. In the world of the elite, if you look like you can't pay the bill, the doors don't just close, they lock. But as bad as the business world was reacting, the U.S. government was about to make it worse. Because the situation had become so high-profile, the IRS decided to take a closer look. They issued what's known as a Section 762 demand. This is a serious legal order for 3 years of detailed financial records. Investigators are reportedly looking into whether private jet travel designer clothing and high-end security were incorrectly claimed as business expenses. If the IRS decides these were personal perks and not business necessities, the Sussexes could be looking at back taxes and civil penalties as high as 75%. This isn't just a fine, it's a potential financial wipeout that could lead to assets surfacing that they never wanted the public to see. While the IRS dug into the past, the California legal system was moving toward the future. A default hearing was set for April 15, 2026. This is the date when American Express could ask the court to authorize the California Sheriff's Department to begin seizing assets. Because of California's community property laws, almost everything is on the table. The Montecito mansion, the luxury vehicles, the artwork, and even the bank accounts. The very system they relied on for their new life was now being used to dismantle it piece by piece. There was no longer a safe space to hide the money. But wait, because the international entanglement gets even messier. The squeeze was coming from both sides of the ocean now. In the UK, the palace prepared to freeze all licensing payments and royalty streams until their own review was complete. This was a two-direction financial chokehold. In the US, their assets were under threat from creditors and the government. In the UK, their income was being cut off at the source. The room to maneuver was gone. Even personal assets like Prince Harry's inheritance from Princess Diana were suddenly in the line of fire. Legal experts warned that if those funds were ever mixed with shared business accounts, they could be targeted by creditors. The protected cushion was no longer safe. And what about the staff? The people behind the scenes who keep the Sussex machine running reports started trickling out that payroll at the Montecito estate was reportedly frozen, leaving personal assistants and groundskeepers in a state of panic. The high-end security team essential for their safety was supposedly reduced in size because the retainers hadn't been met. The image of a powerful global brand was being replaced by the reality of a household in crisis. Conversations on encrypted apps between former employees suggested that accusations surfaced about unpaid overtime and DMN high-stress environments. The internal structure was collapsing just as fast as the public image. As the final hours of the deadline approached, the constitutional reality of their situation became the biggest threat of all. A constitutional expert from Cambridge put it bluntly, "A royal title is a gift of the king, not a right." There is historical precedent for titles being removed if an individual's actions are seen as damaging the crown's standing. If the audit reveals financial mismanagement, or if the legal battles bring further DMN to the monarchy's reputation, the king has the power to act. The message was clear: the titles are on the table. If the debt and the Yacht storm don't stop the Duke, and Duchess could find themselves becoming Mr. and Mrs. Mountbatten Windsor overnight. In a last-ditch effort to control the fallout, the Sussex team reportedly prepared encrypted hard drives and sealed binders for London. They sent identical sets to St. James's Palace and American Express. It was a play for transparency, but it might have backfired. Early reports from Sir Malcolm Hurst's team suggested the disclosures were incomplete, heavily edited, and full of gaps. Red flags went up immediately. American Express's legal team filed a motion in Los Angeles arguing that the Sussexes were acting in bad faith and concealing assets. The transparency play was seen as a stalling tactic, and the courts didn't take it well. The hearing date was pushed forward. The clock was now moving faster than ever. The damage to their credibility has been catastrophic. Veteran groups and charities that once lined up to work with the Sussexes are now praising the palace for its financial discipline. Sponsors are quietly stepping back, choosing to align with safe royal projects that have no connection to the Montecito drama. Their most valuable asset wasn't the money or the mansion, it was their influence. And influence is built on trust. Once that trust is gone, the deals don't just slow down, they disappear. The world is seeing a new standard of accountability, and it's being demonstrated in real time. Inside the Montecito home, the weight of these choices is impossible to ignore. Reports suggest a draft apology to the king sits unsent in an outbox, a sign of a path they are still too proud to take. But with every new headline, every court date, and every frozen account the world they built is chipping away, they are left with a brutal choice: total exposure or total collapse. Handing over everything risks revealing the true scale of their financial reality, but holding it back could trigger a legal seizure of everything they have left. This is no longer about their truth. It's about the hard, documented truth that can be proven in court. The future of a prince and a duchess is being decided by forensic accountants, and the ending hasn't been written yet. But even as the paperwork piles up, there's one question that keeps everyone guessing. If the money really is gone and the titles are stripped away, what happens to the man who gave up everything for this dream? Some say Harry is looking for a way back, a soft landing in the UK, but the king's new rules leave no room for favorites. The door that was once left ajar is now being bolted from the inside. The Sussex experiment might just go down as one of the most expensive and public does of a reputation in history. The tax man doesn't care about royal blood, and in 2026, the IRS is looking for blood of a different kind. The Section 762 demand isn't just a checkup, it's a targeted strike on the one thing that kept the Sussexes afloat: the ability to write off a billionaire lifestyle as a business necessity. Sources close to the investigation suggest that the IRS is specifically circling a series of private jet trips taken between 2024 and 2025. These weren't just quick hops. They were cross-continental flights that cost upwards of $100,000 per leg. The Sussexes reportedly logged these as charitable missions for Archewell, but the paperwork doesn't seem to show a single meeting or event at the destination. If the IRS reclassifies those flights as personal travel, the back taxes alone could be enough to sink a small country. But it's not just the government circling the wagons. The Hollywood cold front has officially moved in, and the temperature is freezing. For years, being seen with Harry and Meghan was the ultimate status symbol for the A-list. But as the financial SHT hit the fan, the selfies stopped. A major Hollywood agent recently leaked that several power couples who once vacationed with the Sussexes have now instructed their assistants to block any incoming calls from Montecito. It's the great uninviting. They weren't on the list for the Oscars after parties, and they were noticeably absent from the Met Gala. In a town where you're only as good as your last hit, or your last bank statement being linked to a $5 million debt, is a DMN death sentence. The silence from the industry is deafening. It's one thing to be controversial. Hollywood loves a villain, but Hollywood hates a charity case. When the rumors surfaced that they were allegedly asking for discounts on high-end rentals and security details, the industry's elite realized the Sussex brand was no longer a partner. It was a liability. The whispers in the Ivy and San Vicente bungalows are all about who's going to be the first to officially off their professional relationship with the couple. When you're at the top, everyone wants a piece of you. When you're at the bottom, they don't even want to know your name. Behind the heavy oak doors of the Montecito mansion, the war room isn't just fighting the palace anymore, it's fighting itself. Reports from former household staff describe a DMN atmosphere where the blame game has replaced the business plan. The pressure of a 21-day ultimatum has a way of stripping away the masks. Harry is reportedly spending more time in a separate wing of the house, surrounded by his own set of UK-based advisors who are whispering a word he hasn't heard in years: return. But returning to the UK isn't as simple as hopping on a plane. Without the firm's protection and with a legal audit hanging over his head, a return could look more like a surrender than a homecoming. The internal fallout at Archewell is even more shocking. The foundation, which was supposed to be their legacy, is reportedly seeing a mass OD of talent. High-level executives who were hired to build a media empire are jumping ship before the forensic accountants arrive. One former director allegedly walked out after seeing a draft of the financial disclosures, claiming that the intermingling of personal expenses and charitable funds was a legal minefield. They didn't want their names on the paperwork when the king's operation ledger went public. When the people you pay to protect you start running for the exits, you know the building is on fire. And it's not just the big-ticket items. The micro-collapses are what's truly revealing. The local Montecito community, which once took pride in its royal residence, has turned cold. Local vendors, the florists, the high-end grocers, the boutique owners are reportedly asking for payment upfront before making any deliveries to the estate. It's a level of public humiliation that no Netflix documentary can spin. The Sussex halo has officially vanished, replaced by a DMN neon sign of financial instability. Even the private security team, the men and women who literally stand between them and the world, are reportedly worried about their next paycheck. If the guards leave, the walls come down. As the midnight oil burns in London and California, the ultimate revealed truth is starting to emerge. This was never just about a credit card bill or a royal feud. This is about the end of an era. The era where you could self-assign royal status without the royal responsibilities. The king's move wasn't just about money, it was about restoring the order. By forcing the Sussexes to play by the same transparency rules as every other royal, he's effectively stripped them of their secret weapon, their mystery. Once the world sees the line items, the invoices, and the DMN bank balances, the fairy tale is over. The decisions being made right now will echo for decades. If they choose total exposure, they might save their home, but they'll lose their dignity. If they choose total secrecy, they'll lose the house, the cars, and the Sussex name itself. There is no middle ground anymore. The bridge back to the UK is guarded by Sir Malcolm Hurst and his team of ice-cold accountants. The bridge to Hollywood has been burned by a lack of trust. Harry and Meghan are standing on an island of their own making, and the tide is coming in fast. Thanks for watching. More royal drama is coming soon. Until next time, with love, Royal Fallout.